Okay, will it be a steel cage match? Hell in a Cell? Will it be a 2 out of 3
No,
falls?
man, no. There ain't nothing fixed about this. We're throwing it down, bare knuckle, glass. Dip the taped wrist dipped in the glue, and then you dip it in
Oh
the
god.
glass, and then you bare knuckle fight with glass fists. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
Like in
I've heard of those kinds of
Kickboxer.
things, and that is
Yes,
disturbing.
yes, exactly.
Uh, I just watched
Damn right.
Bloodsport again, actually,
Fuck
like the other
yeah.
day.
Hell
I love
yeah.
how like obviously like Frank Dukes just like made up everything, but it's so rad because one, it's in Hong Kong, and that film was done at a time when the walled city was still up, and they're actually fighting in the walled city in Kowloon City. That's why like there's this scene when they're walking through the hallways and there's like the pipes coming down, the cops come out. Like that was actually one of the last films that was done in the walled city before it came down. So
Really?
it's crazy. And my family, like, we live like 2 streets over from there. So, yeah, it was kind of funny. Like back in the day, you didn't go there because it was like crazy. It was a demilitarized zone. Yeah, that movie actually surprisingly like holds up surprisingly decently
Damn
up
right it
until the
does.
last fight, which is corny, obviously. But like, it's got
But
Bolo as Chong Li, which is like so awesome. But yeah, the music's so good though. Oh my god. All the lyrics are like "fight to survive" and it's so funny,
yes,
man.
dude.
I love it.
There's something about that. That is, yeah, that's art. Though it's hard to believe that those are. And I'm totally starting the episode in the middle of this conversation just because it's funny. Though it's kind of funny and hard to believe that those movies for like kind of like our generation will be like what John Wayne and like stuff was to like our parents' generation. Like
Oh yeah.
those movies isn't like our classic movies that like kids will be like, what the hell is that? It will be like Predator, Bloodsport, Kickboxer.
Oh my god, yeah. Time Cop was actually pretty decent too. And then all like those in between like Schwarzenegger movies like Red Heat and all that stuff. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like late 80s, like late 80s to early 90s action movies. Like that was like when things were going down, right? So they were
Yeah.
really, really weird. But yeah, or anything starring Mark Dacascos. Those are always the really crazy ones. The guy who's the
Who?
chairman. So Mark
I was about to say,
Dacascos
who?
plays the chairman on Iron Chef.
Oh, okay.
But if you go back to the late 80s and early 90s, he was in all the direct to VHS martial arts movies.
Of course. That's fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to OverBOTCH, our live summer showdown breakdown of everything. Appreciate you. Yeah, that different intro than normal, but I just found that conversation to be. I love talking about 90s movies. I almost wanted to start a podcast rewatching 90s movies in 2022 and just like watching them with
this idea.
With a modern lens and just being like, this is ridiculous. This is still awesome. This is horribly racist. This is horribly sexist. Blah, 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 blah. So we like that in addition to esports stuff. But we are here. We are here with the great Root Bear, who was live on the scene in his home city of Toronto, checking out. And so we'll talk a lot about the live event experience. In addition to, of course, the tournament run, which was pretty wild and it's funny when you look at it, pretty consistent on both the top and bottom. There were teams that just like tore through the top and the bottom. But honestly, before we get into that, so that's going to be the topic of today's show, is breaking down the summer showdown.
I'm here too, by the way.
And looking at that's I was getting you. Rich was there. That was the gimmick. It was a special gimmick because he was there. We love our gimmicks. And yes, of course, Plexomatic is here, who, thank God, it was there, like, was able to watch, because I was gone for 2 days out of the weekend working, so like I didn't even get to catch some of the most intense action. So we'll get into all that. But before that, I did want to, we got to address it because we didn't get a chance to address it last week because getting into the tournament, we didn't do our regular podcast. We just did our co-streams. So I did want to, let me click over here real quick. Wanted to address this real quick. Everybody blew up and exploded and lost their minds and kicked babies out of doors over the revelation that in Overwatch 2, the new heroes will not be immediately unlocked like they have been in years past when you had a game that you purchased and so you already had your money. In the free-to-play model on the Battle Pass, it'll be somewhere. But it will be on the free track. So you technically will still not have to pay for anything. You'll just have to play for a while. Nothing has been confirmed outside of that, but of course it's Twitter and it's the internet, so people took that very tertiary piece of information and started kind of dooming.
Yeah.
We chatted a little bit about this offline. I think we're on a similar mindset. So the main argument was in a game like Overwatch where in match, because a lot of games do this, but no other game allows in match hero swapping. No other like hero shooter, not MMO, but MOBA or anything that allows you to switch your hero mid match. Overwatch does. It's one of the unique characteristics of it. And so people thought, well, what frick? If a new hero comes out, I don't have all these hours to play and get it. It's not fair if it's a competitive advantage, which on the surface I get. But yeah, so that was the big argument. Everybody losing their minds. Plex, you start us off. What was your initial reaction?
Well, I will admit, I'm one of these people that sort of takes a step back, sort of let the hubbub die down first. But
God forbid.
yeah, I'm sort of anti-internet in that regard. That I don't just go spit my coffee in the first 10 seconds.
Yes.
But for me personally, I think to myself, let's assume that the hero's low down on the battle pass. Sorry, let's say on a level 100 battle pass, it's at level 20. And they follow a similar model to they've been doing with the challenges recently, where 7 games you unlock X with a win counting for 2. That's still not the worst compared to some other games I've seen. But
Sure.
it's a case of people complain, oh, it'll make it unfair if you've got the hero or not. The one thing that a lot of people are forgetting, you still need to have a competent team and a strong composition in a game like Overwatch. So you could have the brand new hero, yay, I'm going to play it and all the rest of it. But if you don't have the composition built around her, then you're as screwed as you would be on any other hero. I mean, think about the recent meta in Overwatch League, the Jotes comp. Junker Queen, without that specific composition, could be a liability. I mean, obviously, we've seen teams adapt it and sort of tweak it to their specific requirements. Like we saw Hisu on the Ashe, we saw Mayhem with the double flex. But they made that work.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like a ranked experience, if you were to give a team of strangers that composition, then I don't think they could play it to the same level. So I get the arguments and all the rest of it, but at the same time, can a bunch of strangers get the most out of one new hero? Or will they default back to what works, kind of thing? I mean, that's a weird way of looking at it, I'll admit, but that's just my perspective on it.
Yeah. Which I get. So there was also talk about the idea of like it fosters pay to win, even though yes, it is on the free pass, so you would technically not have to pay anything. We don't know where it is. We've gotten rumors that it would be somewhere around level 20, but that is again very, very, very insubstantial rumor. I couldn't see it being at a level 100. I think that would be very disingenuous. But the idea being that but surely there, like in every other game, there will be a way to pay for level. You could buy 10 levels of the battle pass, right? Like that's a pretty typical monetization model.
That sort of thing, I'll admit.
Oh, really? I see it in every battle pass game pretty much ever. Like, hey, do you want to skip? Do you want to skip 10 levels?
Acceleration bit, right? Where you you either get
can you give me an
buy
example
like 2
of that?
XP or quad XP.
Halo does it, I believe.
Halo does it.
Apex did it, I believe.
Like, get X amount extra experience.
Destiny does it. Like, there's a lot. Just like pay $10, you'll move up 20 levels of the battle pass.
Plex, it's not unlike when you play like an EA, like a sports game. You know how sometimes they'll allow you to you get quadruple XP or extra bonuses for each level.
No.
So it just in practice speeds you.
I've not played an EA game for a while.
Oh, okay. So I know they had this in MLB The Show. Like if you pay it, you get extra. Your training points go up faster, so you can assign it to player skills faster.
Okay. Which was it that, or was it FIFA where they had issues where like it truly was like a pay to win?
Oh, it is. FIFA is like that. Ultimate Team is like the worst.
It's basically
thing.
A casino.
Yeah, it's awful.
But
it's awful.
One thing that this does open the door to. Now, this is something that I always use Smite as a comparison because that's my other competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
In Smite, you get I think it's 5 gods plus a free rotation, and you use in-game currency to unlock the other gods, much like League of Legends, as Rich can relate.
Right.
But what Smite does differently compared to League of Legends is for a one-off pay, which I think is like under $10, you unlock all the gods in the game, and as well as all gods going forward for that one price.
Right.
So it does open the door for Overwatch to have that kind of mechanic as well.
I have a feeling they won't do that because it makes
say,
them less money.
I would
Yeah,
say,
no,
I doubt they do it as
That's my
well, but
thought.
the
I doubt they do
precedent
it
is
as well,
there.
but it's an
Yeah,
idea
Yeah.
sure.
that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, my take on it is, I think people are, excuse me, they're making a whole lot of noise over it for
Mountain
no
over
reason.
a molehill kind of situation.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, like think about it. Like Valorant, you don't get all your operators right away, so
Mhm.
we already know the effect that has on metas.
Rainbow
like
Six,
if you buy
yeah.
Valorant now, that's why I use Brimstone, because he was there when the game launched, and I just don't feel like learning anyone else.
Sure.
Right? That game has tactics. There are abilities. It exists. It's going to be there for people who get the battle pass, of which there's going to be a ton of players getting that pass. I
Mhm.
mean, the game is free. This is the
Yep.
thing people are kind of leaving out of this. They're doing this to back end the revenue model. So people are complaining that a free game requires you to pay anything to get something faster, or you'll get it for free.
Mhm.
So, like, what are they complaining about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you're gonna have to grind for a bit. Okay, but you guys are already grinding, making Smurf accounts. What
Yeah,
are you
yeah,
complaining
yeah.
about?
And I think it
Right.
was you,
Hot
maybe
Kettle
was
Black
it you, Richard,
situation.
who said, or maybe it was Plex, I don't remember. It was like the idea of like, if you really like, who's so you relies on this one linchpin character, your entire like competitive experience for like that is the
But the
1% of the 1%. I think
Well,
people were
that's the
like,
whole
I
thing.
have to
If it's
have
one
everything.
hero and it's not even one that you play or that somebody else could play, this is what's funny about it. Okay.
Yeah.
You probably won't get queued with people who don't have access to that hero, so it's a non-issue.
Yeah,
Because
that's
the
a
most
very
logical thing in the game is
yes.
you're gonna have two different queue pools: people with access to the heroes and people who don't have access to the heroes. So what it actually does is it starts.
Wait, you
create
really
over
think
time-
that's
Absolutely?
they would really like they would
Absolutely.
they can actually separate like, all right, this
Yeah.
group of 6,000 people doesn't have the new hero, we'll pull them together.
Oh
These
yeah, because
10,000
that means
oh,
the battle pass owners are going to get into games faster, and more people will buy battle passes. So the
fair
answer is
enough.
yes.
Do you think like that sounds like a great idea? That sounds really smart. Do you think Blizzard
think they'll do
actually
that.
has that infrastructure in there?
Oh, absolutely. I think they'll
Okay.
absolutely do it. But that's the thing though. Like in the end, okay, so you queue, you grind through, and then you get it. Takes 3 days. Okay, that's fine. And now your hero's with you forever.
Yeah.
Like it. This is what I think is so silly. It's that you're playing through it. The only thing that would be problematic is if, you're after the battle pass expires in a month, you have to start again. That would be stupid. But I don't think anybody would design it that way. Probably a cumulative effect. So, okay, so you have to grind a bit to get the hero, and then you've got them forever. The game cost you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you complaining about? Now, if the game cost you money and then you had to go through that and your Rainbow Six,
Yes,
yeah, that'd be
100%. 100%.
That would be annoying. Because then what did you pay for, right?
yes.
But I think in a case like this, honestly, people love to yell at things because they want everything now. They said, I'm willing to pay for it. Give me a finished game, but it's going to be free. But now, why don't you just pay for this? No, I don't want to pay for anything. I'm like, which one do you want?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Kind of like the whole
It's like what
Grandpa
Jeff said once. Remember, he's like, "What do you people want? You say you want this, we give you this, and you don't want it. Then we take it away. You say get rid of it, so we get rid of it. And now you're mad."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it's kind of like the whole Grandpa Simpson man yells at cloud me kind of thing.
Yeah.
There'll always
Pretty
be
much.
something. Yeah, there's always something you got to be angry about and everything like that. And they did on to that point you just made too. Right below this tweet that we have up on the screen, if you're watching the video version, John Spector went on to answer a question, being like, "Hey, what happens if you don't reach that specific tier?" Again, we're all pretty sure it's going to be low. It's got to be like you said. You're not going to have to grind 8 hours a day for 2-3 weeks to do this. I imagine it's going to be a couple hours of gameplay. But if for whatever reason you stop gaming for a season, are you going to be able to unlock that hero going forward? And it has confirmed that yes, they will have free paths to get the previous heroes as seasons roll on. There will be ways for you to still continue to earn those heroes, even if you, for example, didn't play for a season, right? Or whatever. So that is not completely locked out from your
Yeah,
pool.
and this is something I appreciate is that with Team 4, what I've noticed that
Hmm.
they will look at a lot of potential options and possibilities. Like nothing go in my experience with the game, it's a case of nothing goes in unless they're absolutely sure it will work how they think it will.
Well,
And all the rest
I would
I mean,
challenge you a little
exceptions
bit
to the
on
rule, of
that.
course, but that's the general
Um,
feel I get from them.
always the aim. That's always the aim. There's going to be like and that was going to be my next point. Like this isn't on all loving. Like they're doing great because like, here's the thing: things are going to be messed up. Things are going to be a little unbalanced. Maybe pricing and stuff for some of these things will be off. There will be things that will have legitimate issue to bring up in the community and everything
Yeah,
like that.
of
I just
course.
think this one, yeah, is a little bit of a classic like I don't know, like I called you a name and then the pitchforks of the entire town, like
Yeah.
I called you stupid.
Knee-jerk
And the
reaction kinda
pitchforks
thing.
of the entire town came out. It was like, whoa, okay, sorry, holy shit. Like it just
Yeah.
it's a little it's very
Yeah.
much
Yeah,
an
it's a
overkill kind of
classic
thing.
social media knee-jerk reaction kinda thing,
I
rather than
mean,
just
Yes.
and
take
like
a
at the
second and then think
core,
about it.
if people don't like it, don't play.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Like no one's forcing you to play it.
Mhm.
Gundam
Yeah.
comes out on September 21st. I'm just saying, you want a 6v6.
How much are
There
these
it goes.
Bandai paying you? You spy. You Bandai spy. You're a band spy.
Boo this man! Boo this man!
So let me tell you a little bit about Gundam Evolution. No,
They're gonna
the
have
point though
this.
is if you want like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
You
like,
have
the thing
options
is there's
if you really
you've got
want.
options,
Yep.
right? And the thing is, you know, people complain about lack of content. So this is the way that they can find a way to get content out. Now, if they do all of this and there is no content and all, you know, I get it. Like, then it's different. Then again, now you're paying for something but not getting, you know, what you believe you've been hoodwinked, right? I think that's fair to
Right,
get upset about
right.
that. But getting upset about the concept that there is a pay to win implies that unless you do not pay, you cannot get
Right,
it.
exactly.
And given that the
Yeah.
game is built off of cumulative like performance, you're gonna get it. The same way that eventually I learned how to use every hero. I'm not good with every hero, but there was a point where I didn't even know what to do with them.
Yeah.
Right? It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
Like people are thinking about this so microscopically and without the context of a larger framework.
I'm gonna lose rank games in the first week. Oh,
But
it's-
honestly, and this is why I'm like, okay,
talk to
but
me
if-
6 months from now. Yeah.
like how much is a battle pass? What, $10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you can't spend $10 if you're that serious of a competitive player. Like let's just think about any form of competition or training. Like Matt, when you were training, like had to do physical, like
Mhm.
serious lifting, right? How much would in a given week would go into like non-standard diet, like a supplement or anything
my
that
God.
wasn't just this?
Tons.
Okay.
In some points in my career, hundreds a month.
Okay, more importantly, let's say you like to go to the movies, okay? How much do you spend just to get to the movies? Forget about the ticket. just
Yeah.
to
Oh
get
yeah.
there.
Parking. I mean, I couldn't break down the actual amount of gas, but it's at
Yeah.
least a couple bucks of gas.
That's my point.
I'm in the city. You pay $10 to park. You know, in the parking garage. You know what I
So-
mean? Yeah. All
So
kinds of stuff.
that's the cost, okay?
Yes.
The cost of I can tell you right now, the cost of an A&W combo right now, because they don't have coupons anymore. That's been the effect of inflation here. We don't have these cool like deals. They used to go to the coupons and you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
the
Boo.
mailers. It was awesome, right? So it sucks, but I accept it because they still do sales, right? They haven't raised their prices. So okay, but
Yeah.
it costs $13 because it's an expensive meal. A&W is not cheap here.
Yeah.
Okay, I go there like once a month. Okay, so but that like
But the point is,
exists.
but it's that's a thing you care about or whatever. I like
But
that
I'll
stuff.
go,
So,
right?
but I'll go. It's not like they're
And my question is, how much money
Yeah.
are these people spending on skins?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Have you never bought skins? Okay, I'm not saying you haven't. And yes, there's going to be some people who can't afford anything outside of a free game. Now, here's what's funny. None of them can possibly exist in the Overwatch ecosystem right now because they had to buy the game to play.
Right.
So anybody who says I can no longer access it is lying because they had to pay to get access to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? They're being disingenuous. But then they're also saying you'll still get it. You just got to grind a bit. And that's all people do in Overwatch. Grind, grind. Oh, don't fear the grind. And I'm like, and that's what you're complaining about. That it could take you longer to get access, but the trade-off is the game is free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like
I mean-
I'm hard on publishers. You know, you guys know this. Everybody
Yeah.
knows this. Like,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
does Rich like anything?
He does not
And
pull.
in
Yeah,
this
he does not pull
case-
punches.
But in this
Mm.
case, honestly, I think people are being completely unreasonable.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Game's going to get released, and we're not going to hear a thing about it. I guarantee you. They're all going to
Yeah.
get quiet, and they're just going to play the game.
Yeah. Like I say, I think it's a case of you got to wait and see with anything like this. I mean, we always see people the second we hear any, not just Overwatch in general, but I'm talking like any game. You hear anything about it, and if someone doesn't like it, they're on you. You
Well,
licking the shots.
do you remember before role queue started in Overwatch, all the pros were like, the only way to fix this is to have role queue. We need role queue. And then role queue comes around and everyone's like, role queue sucks.
Ruin the
Yeah.
game. Whatever,
You literally said this was the one thing that was needed.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I'm like, guys, just like people have more opinions than they have like, brains in their head. Do you know what I mean? It's like opinions are like
Richard, you just described-
assholes and elbows. Everyone's got 'em.
Richard,
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yes.
Richard, you've just described any YouTube chat.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what it
that's-
is. You're watching
that's what,
professional
honestly-
esports.
But I think the most important thing is let's just wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play the game. And if it sucks, if the experience sucks, then talk about it. And then we
Right.
can have I think a good, balanced and healthy and reasonable discussion.
Yeah.
I also I will say I think I bought that Watch Point pack because my buddy bought it. And oh no, you know what it was? And then you got access to the beta and
Mhm.
whatever. Not that I really care that much about the beta, but I just did the numbers on it, and yeah, it actually was a reasonable savings.
That's kind of. I did it too.
Oh yeah,
It was
Matt,
like-
you covered it all
Yeah.
for me too, because I asked you after I
Yes.
talked to my friend Pat,
Yes.
and so like I said, I think it's just one of those cases where, I've got confidence in the team at Blizzard. Like everyone I've ever met at Blizzard, it's just a stellar person, good worker,
Yeah.
great thinker, good brain, good heart,
Mm.
and I'm like, if this opens up their ability to make the content, which is what everyone's been saying is suffering, then so be
Yes.
it. Like this is because remember they're up against Valorant, which is showing they just teased a new agent
Yeah.
today.
They
Yeah,
go
I
at
saw
a
that.
blistering
Gundam
pace
on
with-
release. On release, they're giving us 3 new units.
in
the
addition to
drop
everything
date.
that was in the beta.
And the game's free,
Yeah.
right? But the issue is they literally have unlimited units and characters to tap into.
Yeah.
So this is just how they've got to work it out, you
Yeah.
know? And the truth is anyone who thinks, oh, but it's going to be a huge moneymaker and this, and I'm like, Overwatch is not a huge moneymaker for Blizzard. If anything,
Yeah.
I think it's actually pretty good. I think it's great that we're getting a good attempt to really restructure the system into something more sustainable and healthy. I think this
Yeah.
is something
Yeah.
we should, if you do love the game, give it a good, honest shot. Just
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
in and really try to play and see how it goes.
Yeah. Going with an
That's
open
what,
mind.
That's
kind
what
of
we
thing.
should do.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna stop watching baseball because of the rule changes next
Yeah.
year. Like,
Yeah.
and some guys are freaking out. They're like, it's 90 feet to first base, and I'm like, okay,
Okay.
like I get it, but
Yeah, it's
and-
kinda like
and
when they
I-
change the
granted,
offside rule in
you-
football every
you
year.
could change some of the rules. They could have had the side by side bases like they have in baseball to avoid collisions.
Right.
But people are gonna freak out about the pitch count. I'm like, guys, the game's just too long, and everyone's like, oh, but I love having a great day out. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but it's 3.5 hours long, guys. Like nothing lasts that long in this world. Like you've got to move with the times. or the
Exactly.
times
You've
will
got to
move
evolve.
you.
Exactly. You get left behind. You
I mean,
have to
hockey
adapt,
did that.
yeah.
We've changed massive rules, and that's what I just think is strange. And I said, like in the end, it's not like they're coming out at us like a $25 battle pass or
Yeah.
40, like something silly.
Yeah.
Mm.
And to everyone, and I'm like, look, guys, there are stories about people dropping thousands, like $8,000 on
Oh my
Genshin
God.
Impact in a month.
Yes.
You know, I'm like, guys,
Yes.
the people stop. Like, this is what we're getting upset about,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
$10 compared
So-
to $8,000.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, like in
imagine if
some
they
of the
did this
stuff.
just through microtransaction. Now, that's why I think what's going to end up happening is you either get the pass that gets everything rolled in, or you can buy a la carte, but it'll add up to more than the pass.
Right.
But you can
Mm.
access all the heroes, like the cosmetics will be included in the pass.
yeah.
I think, based off of completion or whatever. right?
Yep.
I think, but my hunch is they'll probably just give it to you anyway because it guarantees the revenue per head. Like, yeah,
Right.
it's only $10, and yeah, the skins were $3 each. Maybe they'll have those like legendaries for $20, but I bet you those will be available through the pass for completion. That's like an over and above. Then
The rumor
always be
mill is
free.
that even those mythic skins, those crazy skins that they thought maybe $45 for or whatever, the rumor now is that will be probably the completion of the pass. Those will
Yeah.
actually be in
Yeah.
the. You might be able to have an option, like you said, to buy it in the store or something like that
Yeah.
without doing
And
anything.
that's what I was
But
thinking, actually.
it'll
they will.
probably
They're
be.
gonna definitely
Yeah.
allow a la carte purchases. Like, they've learned their lesson from the way the game worked. Overwatch was one of the last games of its generation to be something that needed iterative updates that only had a one-time buy fee. It's one of the last games that did that
Yeah.
and tried to do online competitive. But the reality of online games that are competitive is that they need continuous maintenance, continuous development, and continuous innovation. So the revenue, the financial model can't work.
Needs to be continuous as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
actually impossible to do this. And it's not like they're being like iRacing where you subscribe to everything monthly.
Yeah.
Like, if they were charged, like, then it's like $20
like some of those
a month just to
MMO
play.
kind of things. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
my God, and then it'd be a different discussion. So anyway,
Right.
like I said, I think people are just being mean.
No. 100%.
Curmudgeonly. They're being curmudgeons.
Curmudgeons.
That's coming from me.
I know. I was like, what an about face. But let's get Richard more curmudgeonly again, because let's talk a little bit about the term. That was actually a really good discussion. But so let's get into the action. This is what the Summer Showdown went down this weekend in Toronto. Right before we kind of started the podcast, we were talking a little bit about the live event experience because Richard was there. He actually phoned into us a couple of times, which I actually thought was really cool.
Lucky beggar.
It was sweet. We legitimately, like, that was the only, every other co-stream was just people just watching, and like we did that too. But to actually have somebody in there chiming in, it was actually really cool. So, and again, before we went live with this, we were talking a little bit about day one was a little bit had a little bit left to be desired in the live event experience atmospherically, right? So like,
Yeah, they had
then
some gremlins, right? Gremlins
Yeah.
in the machine. I had a great talk with some of the folks on like side ops, and it's one of those cases where there are certain things you just can't plan for. Like, a cable
Sure.
will not work. There's nothing you can do. So one of the big things though is I can tell you, because I got to go on the Friday and then the Saturday. So I didn't go Thursday and Saturday. I didn't go on Friday, and I actually didn't go to finals. The finals day. There was too much driving on that one
Sure.
Saturday. But there was a huge amount. I can only imagine like a Herculean amount of effort that went on site, because all those little things, a lot of the little things I noticed on that first day were gone
Yeah.
by the time Saturday came around. So there were a couple issues with the main screen. I had a couple like artifacts and frame drops, which is, that's a cable somewhere. Like, somewhere on a matrix, something's gone weird. Totally fixed. The contrast was actually improved on that display as well too. All the player cameras are fully active by the time Saturday rolled around. But my most important thing to me is the sound was fixed.
Yes.
Like, I joke, Overwatch the game and Overwatch esports has a bass problem. People turn everything way too loud. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm a jungle DJ. I'm like, don't worry, I'm good with bass. But this is uncontrolled bass, which
Yeah.
just muddies everything. But overall, it was I will say it was pretty nice. Like, great queue management. There were no lineups really to get into anything. And a funny little thing happened. The staff there at the snack bar were actually super nice. I guess they're all students who work
Oh,
within
okay.
the
Yeah,
framework
yeah.
of like the Toronto Metropolitan University. And I just respect them so much, because at the end of the day, I hope I'm allowed to say this, but at the end of the day, they had like an extra piece. Like, I just went to go get a slice of pizza because they were closing up, and they had like an extra one there. And like, oh well, we're closing up. Do you just want this? Because otherwise, we'd have to throw it out, and that just seems really wasteful. And I was like,
I've been
that's
there
actually
before
pretty.
myself.
That's pretty cool, Like, and I know
Yeah.
I've done that. Like, a lot of people in food services.
Oh,
work,
I've done that 100%.
yeah, I thought that was super awesome, But overall, it was pretty wild. The crowd was a big mix of, I would say, like Defiant fans and like Overwatch generalists. I can say on that first day of games, I was with at least 3 people that had their like Defiant gear on, but they had like secret London shirts underneath. It was
Oh, that's
amazing.
right.
Those
Yes.
traitors.
I know.
You were telling us
Secret
about that.
London
Yes.
fans.
Closeted
There
London
was,
fans.
I know, we had folks coming in from all over. So I hosted a brunch on Thursday morning for a lot of like newcomers, like people who might not have been to the city before, total strangers. We went to Fran's, like a very famous diner here in Toronto, and we managed to get seated for a table of 11. And it turns out we were able to get seated for a table for 11 that had just been cleared because a Spitfire had eaten at the diner with 11 people right before we got there. So super
Spitfire
funny.
got good taste.
Spitfire's got good taste. It's a diner that served liver and onions, so I'm good with it. But overall, it was interesting. You know, I feel for any events manager that has to work with escalators on an entrance, though. That I will say that like straight up, like anyone if you've ever been to like a football stadium, you know, usually there's like a big like landing area that you enter, and like you go up, and the escalators are for the exits. But it's just because of the way the Mattamy is constructed, you have to take escalators to go up. So it's really tough to build in like that feeling of an entrance, you know, into a venue.
Yeah.
And that I think was the toughest thing. So I was trying to find fire regulations, code regulations for like how much distance needed to be in walkways, because I couldn't figure out why there it did, you know, usually all the so like a great example, if you go to I went to the Barclay Center in New York for ESL to watch CS:GO. You walk in, and the lobby, you know, it's like a wrestling show. You walk in, and like you see immediately the merch stand like right there.
Oh, of course.
And then they, you know what I mean, like in the concourse, right? There was no concourse, but you can't change that. It's how the venue's shaped.
Yeah.
So that though, I think it's just unfortunate because a lot of people didn't get to have that like really immersive spectacle of like, this is Overwatch League. This is everything that is the best of us in this scene come to life, and you didn't get that. What ended up happening though is I think because I'm guessing maybe it was fire code, they had to put the merch like on the floor.
Yeah.
Like so if the screen's at the front and all the seats are here, all the gear was in the back. And it was tricky because you couldn't really, you had to like walk down. You entered at the upper bowl, then you had to like walk all the way down and then to the back. So when the sound was really off, you couldn't hear what was going on if you're trying to like buy stuff. I felt really bad for the vendors because they had some sick, like special like release gear for Defiant available there. And it was just really hard to have a conversation with folks.
Yeah. I get that.
MSI had like a sick setup there. EPOS had my favorite display. Like it was just a great looking, like a Comic-Con level type of exhibit, but you couldn't really make things out really well. At least on the first day. The second day, like I went totally fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall it was interesting. Fem Gaming was there too, so they had like some cool community outreach going as well too, which I thought was just great to see. And they put them up with ads up on the main screen, which I thought was friggin' awesome to see that.
That's very cool. Yeah, that is very cool.
Well, just to follow up on that, if I may, just sort of
yeah.
from a stream standpoint, it's like, because obviously me and Matt unfortunately weren't able to get up there. From our perspective, it was a case of, for me personally, I was looking around. It's like, as you said, on day one, the atmosphere was a little bit off, and I thought to myself, and in going back and watching the Mayhem matches as I always do, in preparation for the podcast, I thought to myself, couldn't they have just bumped up the mics over the crowd a little bit?
So they had audio leveling issues all day that day, and like those are always very frustrating for me. Like it just really bugs me. Just I spent too much time in audio engineering. They didn't help out. Like again, there's nothing. It could have just come down to the engineer on the main board. It was really difficult for the host of the event. The challenge there is that, you know, when you host a live event, you've got to do it in a certain way. You've got to be a little bit over the top, a little bit bombastic in the delivery. You know, Matt, you know what? It's delivering a promo.
A little bit.
Right? Like you've got to really dig deep in the voice. You know, you've got to project, and that didn't come through. It came through like, I joked when someone was like, so how are all y'all doing? And I'm like, why did you say it like that? That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, because now you sound like someone who's trying to pretend they're from Houston, you know,
in
but
Toronto.
you're from like Ohio or something, you know. I'm just saying, like, it was weird, and I felt bad for them because I don't know what the instructions were for them, right? Because you're going with whatever is on the run sheet,
of course.
But the challenge though is it's a live event. you got to eat that mic. It's a dynamic mic. You got to eat that
Mhm.
mic. So what
Mhm.
happened was, because of the venue design, the voice didn't sound right. It was really, really hard for her to manage. It just, and that's why the cheers, like, I was joking, like they tried to do a cheer, let's go Defiant, and then I'm like, too many syllables.
Too many. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but so that was one of the big challenges, because Camille, who hosted it, she's friggin' awesome. Like, Camille is a badass. Camille Salazar Hadaway. She is a badass. I've seen her do live events, and it was like, and then it makes you wonder, oh, the monitor, and it got me thinking, oh, is the IEM acting weird,
Sure.
right? Because if it's too up, you pull off from the mic, you're like, oh, that's too much.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been there.
And
Yep.
I was like, oh shoot, snap, maybe something's setting that off, because the only thing I would have added, and maybe maybe there were limitations as well too, is that when you host in an arena, so this happens all the time with like NBA, NHL, happens in MLB, the host of the arena, you usually do like some segments where you like walk around the arena. You're like, hey, I'm here with Matt. He's in from Chicago.
Yep.
Came in all the way in from Chicago, and says he is here to cheer on the Houston Outlaws. Matt, how you feeling today? And you pre-cue the
absolutely.
lines.
Yep.
We didn't get any of that. So that was one of the things that I think, if there was only really, like, as much as I kind of poke at things, the one firm critique I do have is that for a localized event, they didn't talk about anything local. They didn't bring in the city. They didn't call out the boroughs. Like, you're coming from Toronto, like you got like where's Scarborough crew at? Like Heart Lake, Massive, Brampton, where you at? Who's coming down from York Region? Right? Who grew up downtown? Right? You have to engage with the people from the city. You bring those things up. And that's why I kind of like laugh when everyone's like, oh yeah, this is our home turf. I'm like, you're literally in the building that used to be Maple Leaf Gardens, the second most famous arena in the country, the first being the Forum in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that. I think that's super cool. Talk about
and
the
it's one of
venue
those
that
things
you're
too,
at.
like, and I can
Educate
get it
people.
for a broadcast. The idea is we want this to remain a little bit more general and international, whatever. We're people all over the world.
But this was the
But
host on
for
site.
the live event host, that's a very cool little thing to add in, those kind of things. Because you have to imagine, even though people are coming from America, especially America, and most people there probably are going to be coming in from the surrounding area of Canada.
You
know
go
what I
like,
mean?
this is the original home of the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? This is where our the first NBA game in the world was played there. Like, guys, do you not know your own town, or do you not have enough pride or interest in it to talk about it? And that's the kind of stuff that will start to build some cheers, build excitement, because that's where you are. Toronto winning there, Defiant winning there, you are standing among the ghosts of our greatest heritage.
Dude,
And the fact that they did third place as well.
And it's making that's what, like, you can pull a story, making a story out of nothing, right? There's nothing inherently there, but it's like, hey, but we can string something together to emotionally attach people, even if it's to the building itself. The idea that you are here as a part of this experience.
You still see the rafters.
Yeah.
Like, Foster Hewitt used to do announcements up there. Like, I would say something like, let's all give a huge round of applause to Jen, right? To Lemon Kiwi. She is here announcing, right? She is a woman announcing at the first OverBOTCH LAN in Canada, in the building that once held Foster Hewitt, who was the original voice of CBC Hockey Night in Canada when it was on radio. Hockey fans from the United States to Newfoundland. You could have gone into all this stuff that, like, and the thing is, that's what happens. That's the sort of the cliche, right, about events, is you kind of hype up the city. And again, this is also me, I'm biased, right? Because, like, I know my town, I love my town, same way I know New York and I love New York. Man, you want localization to really have that kick. Maybe we should focus on being able to talk about our towns.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I thought it was a bit of a lost opportunity to do some pretty cool, like, make a tourist map. I made one. If I can make one, someone else could have made one. But I was like, I mean, you can make this up where it's like, work with all the local businesses, help people kind of find their way around, and then make agreements where you're like, anyone who flashes an OverBOTCH ticket, you know, like just like you'll be part of the program, and then you know you just read, and then I don't know, I'm making this up. Like if there was a code on the reader, or if they could scan a code, you scan them in, and they'll get like a special combo or whatever it is. You work out a deal, right? Like, but the point is, they could have done all those things to bring light, like sort of focus to the town. Like our
Yes.
biggest
No,
land
for
center,
sure.
our best land center in the city, it was a 10-minute walk
Yeah.
from the venue. Like those guys managed to survive COVID. Is now like the only place that's an indie left.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it comes down to
Maybe
it's
help out
research.
that stuff, because you
Nobody
want to
knows that
say you're
stuff.
bringing, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's
Yeah,
all
you
got
gotta
to
do your
Of the
research.
city and
Yep.
and educate people. I think that's super cool, right? But again, that's one of those cases where you know, who's to say it's one, it's you know, you can't really hold that against anybody individually. It's just one of those things where like I really want to. We said the same thing about the grand finals in Hawaii, right? Remember, like, where's the camera shots of like, you know, Hawaii? You know,
Yeah.
you're showing the one loop of the coast.
Yes.
It's a localized program. Kind of bring that up. Like New York, Excelsior's done that really well. Like when they did
Especially because it was, that's the other thing. It was a, if it, and I still think it's all fantastic ideas, but if it was a quote unquote general Overwatch event, which it was, but it specifically advertised as being, it was hosted by Toronto Defiant, right? So we were going to Toronto. This is an event that is hosted by the home team here, who are from Toronto. They're your Canadian team, blah blah. Then you could have you had reason, you had cause to like bring in some localization. It's not like it was just like, hey, we're just going to LA because there's a venue there. It's like, no, our home team here in Toronto is hosting a Toronto event in Toronto.
But like in the former Maple Leaf Gardens, this is like saying this used to be Villa Park.
Yeah.
Like that means something. You can go to the original center ice spot if you go to aisle 25 in the Loblaws next to the canned tomatoes. Like Doug Gilmore took face-offs there. Daryl Sittler took face-offs there. The NHL purposely rigged all the refereeing against the Leafs in '93 so Gretzky would make it to play against the Canadians because they didn't want an all-Canadian Stanley Cup final. Like there's all these things we can kind of bring into it, and that's why like I'm just like I feel like it's not a bad thing. I think it's a missed opportunity.
Yes,
because there's a lot of people who don't know that about the area. Like I gave people who were in the group, I basically gave them wherever we were going, I made it a walking tour. I explained everything that was there, when the buildings came up, what used to be there, where not to go, because some people were giving, this is the other reason, some people were giving really shitty advice on like where to go. They're like, it's like why Lemon Key, we ran into issues with, you know, somebody like a homeless fellow who was having an episode and ended up pulling out a brick. And I was like, that's a very Toronto thing. Where were you? And they said, oh, we were by the Stormcrow Manor. You know, we were in the village. I was told it's the least sketchy part of the city. And I was like, whoever's giving you that advice, do not listen to them
know
anymore.
the city.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous. You know, it's
but
so
I hear you.
Like I was like, and that's what really got me thinking. I'm like, who the hell are these people giving you advice? This would be like me sending him like, oh yeah, Matt, just go to the South Bronx, man. They got like really good food. They do. But like, if I don't tell you, it's one thing for me to tell you to go somewhere, but if I tell you it's the least sketchy part of the city, it means you don't have your guard up. You're not even paying attention. Right. And also, it's objectively wrong. The least sketchy part of the city is Yorkville because it is the wealthiest part of the city. Like that is, whoever said that has to be a complete imbecile.
Yeah.
And should, like, if anything happened, that is on them.
Yes.
Like that is 100% on that person. So I hope whoever gave that advice never gives advice to anybody else, because that person is like, that person can get someone killed. Or shot at minimum, mugged at minimum. You know, I joke like Plex. You know how people used to joke like, oh, I'm gonna go to the O2, you know, the O2 arena for like an all-night party. They're like, it's a lock-in, right? Because you don't want to walk around at night.
No, of course
if you don't know where you're going. I would never send you south of the river. Unless I told you it's a venue and you stay there till 6 a.m. and you leave in the morning. Just don't go.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's like, this is one of the reasons why it's good to get the talks going early. Because it also, like I said, look, it helps the local businesses. There's a ton of independent businesses in the area. I think it's a great way to lift communities up, show the power of localization. And that's why I said it's a missed opportunity. But you know what? That's what next season is for.
No,
Yeah.
and they're hopefully it's all very very great point because it makes it more meaningful. It and it ties in, which is one of the issues we've had with a lot of these, like the localization. We've lost that in a lot of these teams. So yeah, hopefully we'll see that more. But folks, I would be remiss if we're almost an hour in and we haven't even talked about the tournament yet. So let's get in, but let's get into it. A lot of it. We'll run it over and then we'll talk about what might be coming in the closing weeks of the season as well. So I mean, I was talking about earlier, the runs in the upper and lower bracket were like they weren't very varied. They weren't like, oh, one team won a couple, then lost. Whatever. Up top, Dallas just tore through. The funny thing, their most contentious game was in round 1 against Washington Justice. And after that, they sailed. And then in the bottom, it was all Toronto. I mean, it was a hell of a they tore through the bottom bracket. And until Shock, who was still very strong, but just it does not have Dallas's number. So that was like the overall Archie story. Our teams all interacted once again. It has been a crazy couple of days, so we do not have like promos of written, but lo and behold, don't worry. Plex will be getting his
I'm gonna be
Houston
tortured.
skin, but you know what? Richard, I will be getting a Toronto skin, and so will Plex though. So we both have to do that. Toronto had to me, I guess, team of the tournament for you. I think who is it, Plex? Who's the team of the tournament for you?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, let's just take San Francisco and Dallas out for the moment because that's the easy answer. I think we could agree on that.
I think you could say. I was going to say Dallas is obvious, and you'd be very valid choice. But to me, it was went in super strong. They had a strong stage, went in super strong. Yeah, to me, it was like of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to hear something else.
About for a moment, I will say, hey, that we saw a lot of close games because you look at the results and they don't really tell the whole story. But I will say, hey, I've got to give it to. Well, I don't think now. No, because every team showed their worth. I think it's safe to say that, even in defeat. But I've got to say, Toronto make a good case because even with the home field advantage, Twilight for me was one of the best players of the whole thing. This is not so that Richard can have his 10 minutes of yes, they're loving the Toronto fight, but Twilight. I mean, coming into this, I actually quickly saw the top 5 plays that Overwatch League put up, and Twilight committing that rally on Busan made the top 5. Spoiler alert, I won't say where.
Yeah.
But that play, like, that was a losing fight. And Twilight was like, no, it isn't. Whack!
Yeah.
It just goes, and he legit looked really comfortable on that brig. And when called upon to flex over to the Ana, didn't look out of place. It was like he was still part of the composition. So got to give it Toronto for me. If you take away Shock of the Fuel, were one of the best teams in the NA side. I mean, Mayhem ran them close. I will say that. And obviously Houston decided to fall flat. They didn't get that Drama King buff.
They were up and down. Houston was such a strange team. You didn't know what you were going to get. It was just their last game against Toronto was just super weird. It was weird, right?
Weird.
I'm not gonna say they're terrible. It was just a weird game. It's like remember that time when you know what it was? I felt like they were getting into New York alleyway styles of moments where you're like,
these dumb things like
happening?
Where is this coming from? This strat. Like, where is this coming from that you haven't done this before?
My only takeaway, because it was actually, as you can imagine, a bit tougher to watch the game and dissect what was going on while I was on site, is I watched that game, I watched that one remote, but I'm like, it seemed like there are certain things that they'd practiced, that set pieces that weren't coming together. And I don't know if it was a comms problem, but the splits were weird. I'm sure you guys noticed this in a couple games. Some teams got split up in the weirdest ways, where two folks would get stuck in one side room. This happened in one of the Toronto games. It was against Mayhem. They like took two people, and they were like in the side room, like
Yeah.
coming into the ruins, and then everyone else was behind. Like there were these weird splits that happened every now and then. And
Yeah,
I have
potentially
to think
thought-
it was just the active pressure of the land, like that led to some accidental positioning error, which
Yeah.
then cascade into
Yeah.
other things. That's my only.
And they got punished.
hypothesis.
Yeah, they got punished for it. I mean, they came in. It was that first week, first game, excuse me, was strong. They was really strong against Florida, and then I mean, San Francisco was always going to be a tough hill bet. I didn't have a whole, not for any other reason, just shocked. It generally is a strong team, and the fact that they took a very dominant Hollywood map off them gave me a lot of hope. But you know that I kind of expected to happen. But yeah, then Toronto. But I mean, that Toronto was going to be my team too, since you took them. I'll say this. I'll say Florida was my team. I mean, they came in. So they come in fourth.
So not looking when I saw that it was Florida coming in. I'm like, obviously it would have been. There's all sorts of teams you don't want to face, but when it was Florida, I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I was happy that it also was
Yes.
not the team we had lost to already, but that's like saying, do you want to get
Yeah.
punched with someone's left hand or their right hand? Like, it sucks either way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Florida can go crazy on you.
Yeah.
I think it was just
And
But
this is
what's
like-
your take on the Florida game though? Because again, I was there on site. I
Exact-
couldn't see
but
how
what-
everything broke down.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is not just against Defiant, but against Spitfire as well. Those 3-2s were games of inches. It's like it's a case of the one minor macro thing you got wrong in your play. The other, it was basically like this domino effect, the butterfly effect kind of thing. Like, oh, Majed was caught out of position, and boom. So we saw that on Midtown against Defiant. It's like Majed was playing in that back corridor, at the back behind the point, and Defiant identified that. Like, okay, come here, kind of thing. It was
So fun. Oh,
was
funny thing about Sir
macro.
Majed, he like looks like he's 12 years old, like in
He's
person.
only 18.
Very young face. Yeah.
Oh my god, I was
He
like,
only
someone
turned
punch that
18.
child. You know, when we were playing, and I was like, we could so hit him with a water bottle from here.
But no, in all seriousness,
Yeah.
I think we saw a lot from all these teams. It's like
Oh yeah. Yep.
it was in a meta like this, where it's a game of inches.
Yeah.
Mayhem versus Spitfire and Mayhem versus Defiant demonstrated that.
Yeah,
And
that was
that-
a
uh,
nutty game. It was,
and I will
but
say-
it was a good game. It wasn't a roll.
Yeah.
It was tough. I hate the push maps. I will say push maps live, guys, are so frustrating to watch.
They are. I know,
Oh.
like unconsciously, every time I come, I'm almost like, I normally like it when, you know, sometimes games go the distance. I mean, you like the map, but I'm like, every time we get into push, I'm like, I don't really want to watch. I'm like, can we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll wait till I'm like, I'll do something during this match and I'll just see what the result is.
Yeah,
Because they
and the
are
one
a
thing I
little
will-
bit of a slug. They're a bit of a sludge.
Yeah, it was, and especially when
Yeah.
it started off so far, like that's why I like the Toronto, Florida one. It was like close.
Back
Some
and
of them,
forth.
like it was just, oh, they are really, they made a fat leap.
They make like 80 on the first push, and then
Yeah,
they
that-
defend
and
it a
that's
couple
it,
of
yeah.
times, and
That's the
yeah.
worst. It really is. It's actually unfun to watch, but that's no
Mhm.
one's fault. The one team that I don't even want to say I was they underperformed what I thought. Like I got interviewed to talk about where I thought the teams would up. I said Toronto's make it to the semifinals, upper or lower bracket, but they're making it. And I was right.
Yeah,
I thought
damn right.
Vancouver was going to make a better run for it, but they had such a
I
shitty
did
draw
too.
to face San Francisco, but then by all the teams, Florida, which is one of the teams that they can't brute force against as
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
If they faced Washington, I think they could have gone through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was one
In
of
the
those
lower bracket. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I felt like when it was Florida, I was like, "Ooh, this isn't gonna go well." And then it
Yeah.
was like I saw the scoreline, I was like, "Ooh."
Yeah,
So I felt it sucked.
just real quick, one thing that I will say, I think teams were worried about facing Mayhem, is they had an alternative. It's like they could have run the Ana
Yes.
Zen. They had Hydron, who has been overshadowed by Xe in a lot of people's expectations, but he put in the performance of a lifetime, showing why he's on that roster. And it's just a case of in the Dallas Fuel game prior to the tournament.
Yeah.
Mayhem showed they've got multiple ways to take down an opponent. And I think that would have made them a more scary prospect. And then we
Yeah.
also, I think there's a new innovation for this tournament. Hydron on the Tracer for Oasis.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And it
that
worked.
was a
Hydron on the
shock.
Tracer for Oasis. So
It was only
that
that one
was
specific
funny.
point, but it worked.
Okay, here was the thing about friggin' Hydron. I saw that. It drove me crazy because his movement wasn't Tracy. He was just like left, right, forward. Like it was like the laziest, most boring Tracer that was just plunking damage. And I was like, guys, I thought they're lucky that the next map was better built for Ashe. But I was like, that scared the crap out of me because I'm like, there were no shifts, right? Hisu stayed on the Ashe. And I was like, dude, you're getting your ass kicked right now. You
Yeah.
are getting so much damage chipped. You're not landing it because there's a barrier in the middle of that map. It's not an open center. You can't. Ashe sucks in that area if you're up against Tracer because she can just keep going circles and exit. And you have a short side block if you just go through the little building in the middle, right? And
Yeah.
I was thinking at that exact moment, and we talked about this with the crew I was with. I'm like, the big question is if Toronto will adapt based off this, and they didn't. They just stuck with it. They lost that map, that point. But then the third one, it was better built for Etch, and then that's when Hisu landed some. It was nonstop dynamite. That last one was nonstop dynamite. So he chipped it so well, but that was a scary thing.
Yeah, and I will say this about the Hydron Tracer. We didn't necessarily see it against Toronto, but in other matches, you can see that Hydron, his job essentially was to set up checkmates.
100%.
It's like Hydron was like, okay, this is the target we need to take down. I'll put the damage in so that checkmate can come in and go bang.
Yeah,
And it worked.
which has been that's been the MO for pretty much every team. It's the Genji. It's your damage duo chunks down, get some chunks out of the other players, and then your Genji dashes in or whatever, dash in, dash out, whatever you have you. That's where Genji's been so clutch is the finishes. That's why you've seen so many high finishing blows.
And we saw it
on
in
the
a way.
Genji players this tournament.
So a couple of years ago when Mayhem had BQB and Yaki, BQB was setting Yaki up because you'd have BQB on, say, the Widowmaker on Junkertown.
Right.
He'd be chipping him down, and then Yaki would be like, "Oh, thank you, mate."
Yep.
And
Zink.
then just finish the jump.
Exactly. But for me, I mean, honestly, we'll talk about the final here in a second. But I have to say, the player of the tournament for me, I mean, you could say something like a Hanbin or whatever like that. But again, that seems like the easy answer, dude. Hisu absolutely clapped cheeks like with reckless abandon on Ashe. Was just like bending people over and it's like smack. Sorry for the audio people. That's really horrible to hear, but it just was on another level this weekend. Was like everything clicked when it needed to click.
I would see your argument, but I will say honorable mention to Although because Although the tournament had a really good tournament. Twilight, as I said, for me, Twilight should be MVP of the tournament because he was there. He was on it. I mean, Jaws was joking about the adamantium backline with him and Chorong, but they were probably the most stable backlines in the tournament.
He was so stable. So Twilight, like people can really pressure him sometimes, but he really held together over the course of the tournament. It was like we talked about this Plex, right? Going in, Toronto's built off of the backline. Like, obviously we have great DPS, but what the team's built around is the support line, not the deeps line. It helps that the deeps line is shredding. It helps that Hotba was super stable, right? Like, although I noticed everybody's rampages were pretty decent this weekend. No, there weren't a lot of
whiffs.
Honestly, everyone, like, some of them were ridiculously massive. Like 4 people.
Oh my god, there were some huge ones.
Which is all going to be gone soon, boys.
Yes.
No, it was. I think overall, like, I'll be like full disclosure, guys. The only game that I didn't watch really was the actual grand finals because I'm like, Dallas is going to toast San Francisco,
and they did.
And
I didn't even bother watching it because I knew it was going to be a sweep. I was like, this because like SF in their current setup cannot win against Dallas.
Dallas has had we were just talking about that before the stream too. It's just, I mean, they went three times in this stage. They won the regular season. They ended the streak. Then two sweeps in this tournament.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
sweeps. Like
But
the
like I
also-
said,
seven
but
maps.
This meta's over
Oh.
though. That's the thing. This meta is over. So what I want to see is what the next round looks like. Because they're
Yes.
powering Junker Queen. And
Yes.
Dallas is really good with that. Dallas is like still good without that setup, but it's not a brawl comp anymore.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I really I want to see what's gonna happen.
I'd say the one thing I picked up on was Dallas played a sort of protect the president style. It was get Edison into position and clear the space.
Yeah.
They did a similar thing in the kickoff clash, albeit in reverse, where they sent Edison in, invested resource into him, and so that he could get in and out on the Reaper. Similar setup here, and they played this style every one of those 3 games against Shock.
Yeah.
Did Shock adapt? No. It was literally
Yeah.
all the same way. Hunbin, Sparkle, Fielder, Chio were all pushing up so that Edison could sit deep and go, okay, whether it be on the Ash, the seeing here the Tracer, but also the Sojourn. No matter
Yep.
what he was on, Edison was allowed the space to operate.
Well, you know what's funny? You say that too. It's like, remember Plex? We were watching on the stream. We were co-streaming, and I think it was either after day 1 or maybe day 2. No, it had to be after day 1 because we only did the first 2 days. Because that one thing I thought was actually kind of cool. Like, I don't know where it was showing up. It might have been on the Overwatch League's official Twitter. It was definitely on the stream. They were doing a lot more player quotes after games, like, and stuff. Even if they weren't full
Yeah.
interviews, they were featuring them on social media and stuff. It was cool. So it's just getting input from the players and everything. One of the quotes Kaluj had from Shock, remember we talked about it, was like, he felt like they would do better if they didn't over try to adapt, or it's like, just play our way.
Yeah.
When we commit to it, we do better. And I think that does work for them in like 9 out of 10 scenarios. But the one scenario it didn't was with the Shock, and just like you said, they tried to force it, and it just wasn't working against
And this
what the
always comes
Dallas
back
did.
to this always comes back to my argument of Rush being a better coach than Krusty.
Mhm.
Rush adapts to his players, whereas Krusty has the players adapt to him, so to speak. Because
Yeah,
even though it's a brand new roster for the Shock, they're still playing the same style they've been for years.
sure.
Dallas with Rush as in the coach, not the style of play.
Yes.
He's actually turned to go, okay, hey, we saw it a lot last year, but we're seeing it a bit more this year as well. Okay,
Yeah.
these are the players I've got. This is the meta. How can I get the best out of my players in this meta?
And it's
And
tough, and I
This is
get
a
it.
prime example
Yeah.
is that he said, okay, we want to create space for Edison. How do we do that? Okay, we'll move these 4 players forward. Edison, you sit back.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at a lot of the time with the Shock, Kilo, a lot of the time, was playing with the team in the 5.
Right.
And it just seemed to be a case of that's not working. I mean, in the first game they played the tournament bracket, they switched to Ash, but Kilo was still part of the 5.
Right.
And I just thought to myself, why don't you just look at exactly how Dallas are playing and try that way? Like,
Yeah.
go with a 4-1 split
Mhm.
like they are.
Right.
But
But
they
yeah,
didn't.
like
They
I
just
said.
tried to stay as a 5.
Yep. It is tough. I get it. Like, because like I said, it seems like in 9 times out of 10 it works. So it's hard for you to like get away from that. But the one time it doesn't work is the time it counts, which is in these stage finals, these
Yeah.
playoff, which is presumably whoever is, let's say they continue this streak and they continue to kind of roll over some of these other teams in the regular season heading into playoffs. That's great. That's fine. You're going to have a 7, I don't even know. It'll be like 26 in 2 record this, over the past
Yeah.
year, which is incredible. But if you're getting to these final, like, not being able to clutch it out, not being able to change it, how much all
Yeah.
the regular season wins in the world don't get you a ring.
I mean,
Um,
the other day, hey, there used to be a joke in the Premier League football where can you do it on a cold, wet night in Stoke? Because
Sure.
going to the Potteries was always a tough game because of how Stoke played, hey,
Mhm.
how the environment was and things like that. I mean, Rich could probably relate to this. But in this scenario, it's a case of, yes, Krusty has 2 titles under his belt. Yes, he's coached these players to an unbelievable set of stats, but they clearly struggle in these matches against the Fuel.
Yeah.
It's almost like a
I-
bogey team.
It was
And-
a big struggle. Like, this was not small. You know, they
Right.
were
No.
outclassed. Other teams would have actually done better. Then it's Shock's approach right now that it does not work against Dallas.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, they're trying to force a one-size-fits-all style. Whereas you look at other teams, like Dallas is a good example, and then also you said other teams across the league have adapted and gone, okay, this is who we're facing. Let's set up this way.
Right.
And
Yeah.
all do that way. It's like, whereas with Shock, it's like, we're going to run this style exclusively. Almost like Pep Guardiola with any football team. They're going to run the tiki-taka style with a high press.
Right.
Mhm.
But if you can beat the press or interrupt and disrupt the passing game, you've gone, essentially.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna have to
So
see. Yeah, we're gonna have to see if they can. Yeah, they're gonna need to, especially in these closing, especially as we head into playoffs, stuff like that. They're
Long
gonna
story
have
short,
to.
they need a plan B style.
Something they need again.
Something,
Yeah,
yeah.
even if it's not like, oh, we can do this and this. You don't have to do. Everybody has to be a hyperflex, but yeah, I think you're right. I think we at least give me a plan B. Give me like, don't just bang your head against the wall. Even if the headbutt against the brick wall has knocked several brick walls down, yay, that's fantastic. But like,
Yeah.
it's not getting you
It works.
to the where
It works
you
against
really
standard bricks, but doesn't work against concrete. Doesn't work against
right
titanium or anything like that.
at the end at the most important times, which especially these tournaments and stuff like that. So. Well, we'll find out if they have to do it, but that's which is going to bring us to our next meta. Which I mean, we don't have any determination over
No,
what.
we only know Junker Queen is being depowered. That's
Yes,
it.
we have. I've seen some rumors as to what. It's
As have I.
yeah. Again, the stuff we've seen that have been kind of floated around seems pretty significant. It's not. I thought it was going to be like a. Which I understand. I was talking to some people this week, and you can't, as much as you want it, like you can't nerf her into the ground. I mean, you still want her to be viable. It also is just commercially speaking. I know it's stupid, but it's a new hero. The game's coming out. You do want some people to want to play it. But
Like when Brig could bash through shields.
no kidding. Yay, the good old
Even
days.
I thought that was dumb.
Well,
that was
the
game
good
breaking, to be
old
honest.
days.
It actually ruined the game at that point. But
Um,
yeah, no,
yeah,
it's
so
true,
many.
right? But we've got this new hero coming out too, right? Or is that for Overwatch? Yeah, that's
so
for Overwatch.
yes,
2?
but we have not. I as far as I know, or I would be very very hard pressed to believe that is going to
Yeah, I think it's
any kind of
OW2.
owl play. It won't have any Overwatch League play
Yeah.
because I don't think it's not dropping until the PvP drops on October 4th, which will already be in the middle of a stage. So I don't.
Yes.
In,
was
Yeah,
that
it won't happen. It
before.
won't happen. They won't
Yeah,
drop
they're
it
not
until
gonna,
the
like,
playoffs.
drop it, yeah, or like give early access just to a hero. It's so complicated. It's already so weird as it is.
Yeah, it'll
it's
probably be
just gonna-
playoffs. We'll see the new hero.
I
At
would
least.
honestly almost even be I would that would surprise me. I would almost think they would just leave it. We're gonna stick with it could, and I would be interested to see it. But I have a feeling because I guess we have quote unquote Countdown Cup, even though it's not a stage tournament in the same sense. They're Countdown Cup and then playoffs. I'm curious about the two. I don't know. My in my head, I was like, yeah, they're just gonna hold off this season with any more heroes for the league. That was but you might be right because we do have technically another several weeks of play over between now and when that hero releases, and then
my
they can
guess
start playoffs.
My
Yeah.
guess is Countdown Cup will be played on essentially patch A,
Yeah,
with patch B coming in for the playoffs.
which
that's
will
my
include
theory.
yeah,
Yeah,
which will basically
and-
be like the launch patch.
Yeah, I will say this. I've heard some speculation. We could be getting the battle cattle for the next patch. We could be getting
Really?
a Rista.
Oh, yeah. So
That's the
Marissa buffs
speculation
coming in.
I've heard.
That'd be cool. Oh, wait, what are her buffs? Just so.
It's like
But
there was something I posted on all sec.
yeah, all rumor. There's a buff and there's some buffs and nerfs that are floating around. Nothing is official yet. We always say that.
Okay.
Take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I think her everything's kind of her cooldown is getting
Her health's going up, I believe.
health and shield both go up, and her spear cooldown are
Oh,
reduced from
very
again
cool.
in the rumored
Yeah.
buffs and nerfs and stuff going on. Interesting.
Also-
Junker Queen's rampage again in the rumors is not nerfed, but the shout is greatly nerfed.
Yes, and that's something we all agreed
That's the
needed
key.
to
Yes,
change.
That's the key thing.
But I will say, let's assume Orisa does become better. And so I'm just hoping that it's not a hard meta like we've just seen. What I would
Yeah,
refer to
yeah.
before as a tier 0.
Well,
I want a diverse tier 1 meta, so to speak,
I mean,
where a lot of things are viable.
yeah, just for craps and giggles. Wait, we could swear. Just for shits and giggles. What, like,
It's your
what would?
show, Matt.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm thinking of. What would be a good? I'm trying to think of what would be like a good counter tank to if the Orisa did. She was a little bit stronger. She could throw.
I
her
mean,
spear
that'll be
more
like
often.
when Overwatch 2 launched, right?
Yeah.
Presumably.
The first hero that springs to mind to me would be Reinhardt or Sigma. Because
Okay.
you can put the shield up in front of the spear.
Yep.
'Cause
Well,
I believe
it doesn't
you
go
can
through.
correct
I
me
think it sticks into
Does it go
shields.
through?
I believe, right? I don't think it
It-
goes through. I think you're right.
Yeah, so because assuming you're up against the Orisa, she throws her javelin. Reinhardt can go, nope.
Yeah.
But I actually
Maybe
think about this
Sigma
earlier.
too.
I will admit, earlier on today, I was theory crafting a comp around this new Orisa. Now,
Okay.
obviously, I've tried to do this earlier
Mhm.
in the season, but I'll go into a bit more detail next week or whenever we do the next podcast. But my theory right now is, assuming Orisa is your main tank, Bap Lucio, then May, and possibly Sojourn. The theory being Orisa with her ultimate is a sitting duck.
True.
So the Lucio will get in a position, the Baptiste will keep her alive, the May and the Sojourn can lock opposing players into place with the disruption. What's it?
Mm-hmm.
Disruption field, I think it's called.
Yeah. That
And then the
slowdown.
May, a primary fire, and the Blizzard could lock players into place. So that's my
Well,
theory.
remember, May doesn't freeze anymore, but she does still slow.
But she
slow.
is slows,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes.
Blizzard is the hard lock.
Right.
So that's my theory comp for now. I don't know if anybody else has
I
any
could see
suggestions,
that
but-
working. But I'm so bad at predicting comps if I haven't actually played the game. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could see that working though. I'm
Yeah.
super curious though about this Orisa stuff, because we haven't seen her that much, right? Obviously
No.
at pro level play.
Kellen played it once on Colosseo,
Once.
and then
Once
Mag
died and
brought
switched.
it out as a surprise.
Yeah.
No, Mag brought it out as a surprise on Lijiang, then switched. Kellen hard committed
Oh,
on
did
that
he?
one occasion. Yeah, on Colosseo, he hard
Oh.
committed to that comp. I think it was like against London Spitfire. I can't remember the exact
Okay.
game.
Hell yeah, Kellen. Good for you. Throw it out there, brother. Throw caution to the wind. Yeah, no, I'd be very curious. I'm with you. I would love to see some. That's the biggest thing, man. I want to see some more comp variety, in all the roles. Like that sounds like a good comp to me. I wonder with the May wall, like if you were on the opposing team and because Orisa's ult drags you in, right? Especially the longer you hold it. If you're a nearby May, and she pops ult, if you put a wall up between you and the Orisa, does that mitigate the damage? So even if you're still kind of caught, but you put a wall up, does it mitigate any of the ultimate damage? I
wouldn't know, but I know
I'd be
for the fact that
curious.
Orisa enters Fortify, so
Right.
that negates the Blizzard from an opposing team. So
Right.
there's that factor. But I could see, let's say, Orisa's popping up, and she's got this, let's say, 1 meter around her in game. I don't know the exact measurements, but let's say it's a meter, just for argument's sake. What if the question I think comes down to is, what if you put the May wall at 1.5 meters? Will that block all of it? Will you still get dragged? Or if you put it at 0.5 meters, you're in the mix.
Right.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
That's what I'm
know.
saying. Is if you're already in the distance, you're like, oh crap, you didn't expect her to pop ult. You're the enemy May. So you throw. I guess you could just throw ice block and hope it lasts long enough to protect you.
And assuming the theory comp with the Baptiste, you could throw down immortality field as well.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I'm just wondering. I'm like, would the Waymall block the suction ability, like the grav ability that Orisa's ult has? Like, so like what?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I imagine it wouldn't.
We may find out.
We'll have to find out. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm very, very curious. I don't know when they're going to announce these nerfs and stuff like that. So we know, because the next games aren't going to be until I think we get a week off. Probably, is that right?
Something like that.
It's like a week or two.
Yeah. Usually we have a week.
Like I say,
And
we've
then
got
off.
this
Yep.
week.
And then next week, which of course I'll be out of town, so I'm gonna be catching up on all this stuff. Outlaws kicking it off with Boston. And oh my god, guys, we didn't talk. We always do this because like all of our teams are NA and everything like that. But APAC had a summer showdown too, but really
They
quickly.
did.
But I mean the main story there was Shanghai returning to form. They
Yeah.
really had a strong. They were like Dallas and Shanghai returning to the a form this stage like they had last year, which was really cool.
I will say this. The player that stuck out to me actually isn't a Shanghai player.
Mm-hmm.
It's MN3. He
Yeah.
caught so much flack going into the tournament. And like,
Mhm.
oh, Carpe should be playing. MN3 showed up.
Yeah.
He, to me, was the MVP of the APAC bracket.
Yep.
He, even in defeat, he was like, come on, guys, sort of almost like Aspire was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But obviously, MN3's got the better team built around him. And I will say this, Fury, at the very least, didn't go off the map as he did before.
It's always helpful.
Yeah.
I was like, the number of times I was watching games and Fury was the only one on the Jungle Queen zooming off the edge of the map on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And in this bracket, he was actually a lot more conservative and he actually looked a bit better.
Yeah.
So,
Now,
but yeah, MN3 for me, highlights. Right. But again, it was Shanghai and I'm
Yeah.
not complaining.
and similar to Dallas, they just tore through. I mean, 3-0 on Seoul, who's been good, but then also having these weird finals performances. They still stayed strong. Seoul beat Philly. Then in the lower bracket beat Philly again, and then lost to Shanghai 4-2. But
Yeah.
so I would still in any kind of power ranking put those Seoul and Shanghai, yeah, far and away. But Philly, oh God, just keeps doing Philly things where it's like they show up and it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, and then the next game it's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's
And
so weird. Their peaks are so high, but the valleys are so
Yeah.
freaking real.
And one quick thing on the Dragons, they proved that they didn't need Fate in the lineup because
Yeah, no, yeah,
we saw before how when they weren't playing Fate, they looked a little bit all over the place.
sure.
But I don't know what they did, but they looked really good with Void in the mix.
Yeah,
It's
no,
like,
Void
it's almost
is a
like,
great Junker Queen.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. They looked great, but everything changes. Coming up, I want to take one more look at like I said, the schedule for our first week of everything coming up. It's like it's tough. You can't even preview though. You can't because we don't know what this is gonna look like.
I know, but it's kind of cool though. I have a feeling San Francisco will look better. I just think,
Yeah,
like this kind of brawl setup, that's not their game, right? That's just not how they play. So it's just tough. I feel like they're muscling through everything right now.
yeah. Here's a question: Do gladiators come back? That's the other big one. Do gladiators come back?
Yeah, I think so.
Presumably.
Yeah, I think again, this was
I'm
not their
assuming so.
like the
but
Glads and the Shock both didn't do well, but they've done well any other time you've had to shoot in this game.
And speaking of which, it almost completely slipped my mind. It's been a crazy morning here. Speaking of the gladiators, they dropped Ons.
which you could see coming, unfortunately.
Yeah,
You
This
kind
time
of given signing Happy. I mean, you weren't sure though. Like, hey, you want to keep like a sniper specialist around, but between having Patafan and Happy and Ons in addition to Kevster, it's a lot of DPS.
Yeah, especially when you know that Kevster is basically an insta lock because he can play anything to a high level.
Yeah,
it's always going to come down to who you play alongside him.
Yeah,
Padapan covers the flex. Happy's got the snipers as well as Tracer and Sombra if needs be. So, I mean, I hope Arns does get himself back to a good level of play.
But the question, he can't this season though. He's ineligible.
Yeah, so he's locked out.
Yeah, so that was the other thing that I guess coming from Gladiators, he was offered supposedly was offered ahead of the trade deadline in August. Was like, hey, we're thinking of doing this. Like, do you want to like kind of like they basically offered it to him. Like, hey, we're thinking about trading or dropping. We can do it now if you want to get to another team. And I guess he said no. I want to stay or something. You just denied that offer, that option. And I don't know if he just was maybe like thinking about retiring. It was like, I'll just finish on this team. Whenever they want to drop me, I don't know. So we'll hopefully hear some more information come from him and his camp, see if he will play next year. And because obviously he's kind of one of those OGs. He's been around a while. So you wouldn't totally shock the world if he hung up the mouse and key for a little bit. But
yeah.
We'll see. It's too bad, but I think, like you said, just they have their bases covered with kind of I think younger, more flexible players, and I think that they stand, depending on where we go in this meta, I think they stand another really good chance of climbing up back. Because I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs regardless. We know that. It's just going to be it's last ditch effort time for your Bostons, your New Yorks, your I think Paris is Dunbar, but
this is my potentially dumb question: is the Countdown Cup a standalone tournament again?
No. So a lot of people the Countdown Cup is not. So the Countdown Cup, from what I understand, is just basically, I don't think it's a standalone tournament because it goes Countdown Cup qualifiers, which are the regular season games over the next few weeks, and then the quote unquote Countdown Cup itself, I believe, is basically like a weekend of, it's like play-ins to determine who will make playoffs.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so Countdown Cup play-ins will just be another online tournament. Like it'll be a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday or something weekend. That's what I'm looking at the schedule right now. I don't think it's not a stage title, as it were.
Yeah, sounds to me like quote unquote stage 4 of 2019 to me.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But with a little bit extra.
So we're gonna have like 4 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks of these regular season games to finalize your regular season standings. The people who I'm not sure what there's some people who've already qualified for playoffs, so they don't even have to worry about it. It's the team. It looks like there's only 1, 2, 3, 5 games over the course of Friday and Saturday at the end of October, which will be determined, which will be play-ins, which is what the quote-unquote Countdown Cup will be, is the play-ins to determine the last spots in the playoffs, which will start in November.
Right.
So what are our standings then right now? And who?
So the standing, let's
out?
go.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's see who's actually out. Because I think this is a great spot to close on. Because now I'm curious.
Yes.
I haven't looked at the overall standings in so long, and I just need to know
because
how bad
all the
New
teams that
York is.
qualified for the tournament this time around got a bonus point.
So regular season, Shock is still there, but the lead has significantly narrowed. Followed by Dallas, followed by Gladiators, Houston, London, Toronto, Atlanta, Florida, Washington, and Boston. Now the top 10 is where the play-ins cut off. So below that is Titans, New York, and Paris.
Okay, so they've got something to play for here.
Yes.
So So how many games are left for each?
6, I believe.
Yeah, 6 games.
6 regular season games remain for each. For most, if not all, of the
that
teams.
would require Boston to have an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
And then Titans and Excel and New York to basically win nonstop.
Given the Titans uptick and the Boston's downtick, I could see Titans sneaking in. I'm not entirely convinced that NYXL get consistency, but
I'm with you. I think Paris and NYXL have a very, very tough chance of making any of that work. I see what Plex is saying. Vancouver can kind of recapture a little bit of that magic they've had earlier this stage, just in any kind of, if this meta works for them at all again, they could go on a little bit of a roll. And if Boston, but I think Boston too late came into when, with the loss of Laurie and the kind of reshuffling of the team, Punk coming back into play, Crimzo coming back into play, Seeker making their debut. It wasn't a perfect beginning, but it was also a new mesh of the team. I think they could start hitting some strides. So, but it depends on the meta. I mean, I can see Washington's been looking good too,
Yeah.
though. But this meta changed a lot for a lot of players and a lot of
Mm.
teams. So if without that style they fumble, a team like Washington, who did surprisingly well this stage, could fumble. London, you know what? No, London's been surprisingly good pretty much all year. So I think they'll stay in the mix. I think
Yeah.
I think those 9, 10, 11, or we're going to
Mhm.
see some shifting. I think
Yeah,
everybody
I'll say
else will kind of hang in it.
So, sorry to cut in, but I'm actually looking
No.
ahead at week 1.
Mhm.
So Boston, as you mentioned, they face the Outlaws.
Yep.
So this is then scrolling through. Vancouver's first game is against the Spitfire. Okay.
Yep.
After that, Boston then face the Florida Mayhem, and Vancouver then face the Gladiators. That's in week 1. So Boston have got Outlaws and Mayhem. Titans have got Spitfire and Gladiators. So
It's tough for both of them.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
a
thinking-
tough opening weekend for both of them.
yeah, and I don't know. It's a case of, well, obviously we don't know what the meta is
Yeah.
going to be.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's a
but
case
I
of
think
how
your
these teams
top 8.
adapt.
I think your top 8 are pretty safe for postseason, unless
Yeah.
unless any of them, Florida, Atlanta, and Toronto, have to have some disastrous. They have to go like 0-6, which I just don't see happening.
No.
And even for some of them, even if they do, they probably will still stay within this top 10. So yeah,
Okay,
this
so
stage
New
is very
York's gotta
important.
Play Toronto, Atlanta, Justice, Glads, Spitfire, and Boston.
That's there's like
Mm.
2 in there that maybe they could win if on a good day. Independent and meta dependent, but yeah, that's a rough
Yeah,
schedule.
straight. If Vancouver's going to get into this, they've got to really cause some upsets.
Yeah, they
Almost
have to
hope that
almost
Boston
have
flounder.
Yeah, they have to have a pretty flawless stage. And then Boston's got to slip up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which I'm sure will make
that's-
their fan base unhappy, but still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is really tight though. Like this is oof.
Yeah. It is.
I
it
think
is an
we're
uphill
largely
battle.
seeing. I think we're largely seeing what the playoffs will look like.
Yep.
Realistically speaking.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially the top 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's not going anywhere.
Nope. 100% no. That's
Well,
those-
here's the hoping that New York does something magical and the meta just automatically makes it, perfect for.
Well, if
Yeah.
Arista becomes meta, they already have time on it.
I guess that's
they
true.
have time. That is their competitive advantage. They have had some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Meanwhile,
brother.
really quickly in the East, I mean, your top 2, like I said, are far and away. Seoul and Shanghai have just destroyed this region. Spark, despite having some really awful games and stuff like that, hang in there at number 3. The inconsistent Philadelphia Fusion the peaks are leading them to number 4. Chengdu doing Chengdu things have kept them at 5. Guangzhou on a bit of a recent surge is hanging in at number 6.
Yep.
But I think they're going to have to hope that surge will keep going, and I think they can. If it does, they could overtake Chengdu for a pretty. If this team keeps clicking and Jimmy keeps popping off, and
Yeah.
I think I could see them moving into number 5, and then it's a bubble play for Chengdu.
Yeah. My only concern with Guangzhou, when I watched them against Fusion, and I previously said there was a fear in their play,
Yeah,
that seems to have seeped back in again.
a little bit too reticent kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, because Jimmy had his good moments in the tournament, but against Fusion, they just had that fear again.
Yeah,
It's something that you can't explain.
yeah.
So I'm
100%.
hoping that they get over that before all the play-ins and all the rest of it.
Yeah, no kidding. We will have to see, and we will watch all of it, ladies and gentlemen. Interesting tournament. It was cool to see Land back. It's always fun to see Land back. Ended up being like the crowd seemed really hot and stuff like that. It's always super fun to see. We're gonna get playoff lands as well. So again, unless another global disaster happens, those will. And I'm telling you, my goal is to get down there wherever they happen to be. The plan is to have them in NA somewhere, and bring in everybody from around the world, all the teams for the playoffs around the world, everybody on land, not separate, all that stuff. That is the big goal. we'll keep you informed on any of that stuff that we'll be doing potentially there, so on and so forth. And it's a brave new meta now with the big kick in the crotch to Junker Queen. So we will see how this all shakes out in the next few weeks. We'll have a big preview show next week because obviously there will be no games this week, and we'll do a proper breakdown of what's going to be coming up ahead. But until then, everybody, for the great Toronto advocate Root Bear, for the shining Florida flag Plexomatic, and for myself, we're all going to be buying each other's skins. Except for Richard. Richard don't got to buy shit. Because Toronto kicked ass. So yeah, we'll be showing off our new Toronto skins soon enough. Follow our social media: Plexomatic, Great Root Bear, Drama King Matt, and we will see you all on the next one.
See you guys.
Bye.
Peace.